allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner? Present. Director Kelly?
Here.
Director Dransfeld? Here. Director Roberts?
Here.
Chair Malloy?
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda? No amendments? Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Director Magner? Aye. Director Roberts? Aye. Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Dransfeld? Aye. Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Okay, on to public comment. I have only public comment cards for item 8A. I don't have public comment cards for anything else, including any general comments. Okay, well, I will go ahead and read the rules of public comment because it'll become appropriate later when you talk on your agenda item. If you'd like to speak about an item, we'd prefer you complete a speaker card, give it to the clerk, wait for the item to come up. If you'd like to make comments about other items in accordance with California law, we'll listen, note them, bring them back at a later date for discussion. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board. And I think you can see the 3-minute timer here, and we'll also give you a beep with the 2-minute point. Okay, on to item 6, consent agenda. Are there any items of the consent agenda the board would like to discuss? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner? Aye. Director Kelly? Aye. Director Dransfeld? Aye. Director Roberts? Aye. Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We move on to item 7A. And we have a 7A and 7B tonight. There are 2 public hearings. The first one, 7A, is consideration and adoption of Resolution 680, approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment, and ordering levy of assessments for fiscal year 2021 and 2022 for the Park Maintenance, Recreation, and Improvement District for the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District. We'll now have a presentation by staff. I see Leo up there.
Chairman Malloy, members of the board, this evening I'm going to bring before you the Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement Assessment. This is for the public hearing. I will have Jeanette from SCI Engineering on the phone if you guys have any questions. So I'm going to have Anthony give her a call. She'll be listening in. I have Jeanette on the phone. She'll be listening to the presentation. If you have any questions that I'm not able to answer, she'll be here or be listening in so she can answer them. So in essence, every year I bring before the board Henson of SCI Engineering listening in. She is the one that takes lead on this project. The purpose of the assessment district, SCI is there at a consulting group. They help us with our revenue measures, feasibility analysis, special levy assessment administration services, and planning services. We retain them many years ago. I believe it was back in 2001, and we've been using them ever since. The reason the assessment district was formed, we had limited revenues at the time, and Camarillo was a growing community, and it was expanding on the park acreage. The assessment district was created to improve our park maintenance, fund capital improvement projects, and it was passed by the property owners by 58.7%. On this slide, this is a history of the assessment district, how it has increased. Again, it cannot increase any more than 3%. For this fiscal year, it is going to be going up, let's see, I'm sorry, I cannot read that. Overall, 1.197 is what's estimated that we would be collecting, which is what would be in our Fund 20 budget of the assessment district. We have to do an annual renew of the assessment, which is what I'm doing before you. It provides for installation, maintenance, and servicing for the park district. It requires an engineer's report, which is what's in your packets this evening. And we have to do a notice of a public hearing, which has taken place this evening. The assessment district will be going up to 43.52 per home. That's one benefit. A home is considered a benefit. Condos, apartments, those are rated at different benefits, and you'll see that in the slides to come. So the timeline for the assessment district this year was in February. I brought it before the board permission for to direct the preparation of the engineer's report. On May 5th, we had the board meeting. The resolution of intention to levy the continued assessment was for the preliminary approval of the engineer's report. Tonight, we're having the public hearing with the resolution to approve the final engineer's report. Then in July, the submission and confirmation of the levies will be sent to the county auditor, and those will appear on the property tax bills. This is the assessment district boundaries. As you see, we have Zone A, B, and C. Those are determined by SCI Engineering, and it's based on the benefit that the homeowners in those areas receive. So this evening, I'm recommending the board adopt the resolution 680, approving the engineer's report, confirming the diagram and the assessment, and ordering the levy of assessment for fiscal year 2021 for the Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District for Pleasant Valley Rec and Park District. Do you have any questions for Jeanette or myself?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
Okay, I will bang the gavel. I now declare this meeting open for a public hearing to consider the ordering of the improvements and the levy of the proposed assessments. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any interested person may file a written protest with the clerk of the board. A written protest shall state all grounds of objection. A protest by a property owner shall contain a description sufficient to identify the property owned by such owner. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak for the ordering of the improvements and the levy of the proposed assessment? You have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing none, are there any members of the public that would like to speak against the ordering of the improvements and the levy of the proposed assessments? You have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing none, I now declare this public hearing closed. Any further discussion from the board on this item? I'm like to call for a motion.
Motion to adopt board resolution 680, accepting the engineer's report and ordering the levy of assessment of $42.52.
Could everybody hear that? Could the clerk, could you please repeat it?
Yes.
Jordan?
I will motion to adopt board resolution number 680, accepting the engineer's report and ordering the levy of assessment at $43.52.
Yeah. These darn masks. It's been moved and seconded. Karen, please call the roll.
I'll second.
Yeah, right. Oh.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Kelly, Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Okay. We'll move on to the second one. That is item 7B. introduction of ordinance number 12, setting district board member compensation. Any increases in compensation for directors must be approved by an ordinance of the board, and the increase may not exceed the amount permitted by state law since the last increase. We'll have a presentation by Anthony Miller.
Good evening, board members. And this presentation actually goes in conjunction with an item on the consent agenda tonight, which dealt with the board code of ethics and compensation policy. So this is the other half of that, which specifically deals with the financial aspect of the board compensation policy. Ordinance 10 and Resolution 583 were reviewed for annual board compensation to increase as a part of the policy committee's agenda. By state law, board compensation must be set by ordinance, and it cannot be set by resolution. Ordinance number 12 is being introduced to set board member compensation separately from previous resolutions. District board member compensation is governed by several codes, most notably Public Resources Code, Section 5784.15, and specifically that allows for per day compensation, and that the board has to have established rules for orderly and efficient operation of board business. In 2019, the board adopted ordinance number 10 and set compensation at $105 per meeting. To raise rates or pay rates over the $105 per meeting, the board must set those rates by ordinance. Traditionally, in the past, that has been done via resolution. However, in order to raise them in accordance with state law, ordinance number 12 removes compensation from the resolutions which set district policy regarding compensation, reimbursement of board member expenses, and providing for ethics training and related matters. This is done in accordance with Water Code Section 20202, which governs increasing the board compensation and limits compensation to a maximum of 6 meetings. However, in this ordinance, board compensation remains at a maximum of 5 meetings for the district. And it also governs the amount that the pay rate can increase to 5% over the previous year. At the current rate of $105 per meeting, the 5% increase would increase the total amount to $110.25 per meeting. With the approval of this ordinance, the district would see a small fiscal impact. However, over the course of the entire year, less than a $500 increase in the board member compensation line item would be expected. So it is the recommendation that the board review and introduce ordinance number 12 and follow the instructions for the first reading and potentially waiving of the reading of the ordinance.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Pretty easy to understand a $5 raise. Okay. I will bang the gavel. I now declare this meeting open for a public hearing to the introduction of ordinance number 12, setting board member compensation. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any interested person may file a written protest with the clerk of the board. A written protest shall state all grounds for the objection. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak for the introduction of ordinance number 12, setting board member compensation? You have 3 minutes to address the board. Seeing none, are there any members of the public that would like to speak against the introduction of the ordinance number 12, setting board member compensation? You have 3 minutes to address the board. I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any discussion from the board? Okay. Director Magner, I believe you have the motion.
Okay. I move that the board secretary conduct a reading by title only of proposed ordinance number 12 and waive further reading of the ordinance.
I need a second to that motion.
Second.
Second, thank you. Karen, please call the roll.
Or do I need to do something?
No,
Okay.
we got to,
All right.
take the roll here. Yeah,
I seconded
for
it.
title, right.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Kelly? Director Dransfeld?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Director Magner?
Okay. Board secretary Ordinance number 12, an ordinance of the Board of Directors of the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District setting board member compensation.
Is there any discussion from the board? Okay. I need a motion to approve the introduction and first reading of the district's ordinance number 12, an ordinance of the Board of Directors of the Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District setting board member compensation.
So moved.
Second.
Director Roberts seconds. Please call the roll.
Director Magner?
Aye.
Director Roberts?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Dransfeld?
Aye.
Chairman Malloy?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. So we're now through our two public hearing items, and we can move on to new items. Discussion action, the Monca Soccer Academy FC Community Service Organization request, which is item 8A. We'll start with a board presentation, or a staff presentation to the board.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, general manager, staff, visitors, and viewers at home. Eric Story, your Recreation Services Manager.
I'm Lanny Banney, Recreation Supervisor with the Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District. Thank you.
And tonight before you, we bring for consideration and discussion a community service organization application by Steve Monca and the Monca Soccer Academy FC. So a little background on this overall project as well as the district itself. Lanny and I had to go back through roughly 20 years of history, minutes, recordings, staff reports, agendas. So we want to say thank you first to the board and to Mr. Monca for your patience on this project. So district programming. So the district manages 28 parks and multiple facilities, including an aquatic center. We do camps, we do classes, we do adult and youth sports, senior services, and various community-wide special events. Our contract instructors, they're independent contractors. They aid us in a lot of the programming that we do by contract. We also have contract operators who manage specific locations, whether it be a BMX track or a preschool, under agreement with the district. The district also has community service organizations or community service groups. Those two terms are interchangeable. And there are organizations that provide recreation opportunities to the community, and they are also approved by the board of directors. So a little more on community service organizations. They utilize various district fields facilities, whether it be the Aquatic Center, Freedom Park, PV Fields, even some Oxnard Union High School District, as well as PVSD facilities under joint use agreements with the district. One of the big benefits of being a community service organization or CSO is priority in requesting and reserving fields and facilities, as well as reduced rental rate. That rate is set to whatever the MOU with the organization and the district is. And as I mentioned, PVSD and Oxnard Union High School District also has facilities that we utilize. So these are our currently approved community service organizations. There's 8 of them with the years that they were approved. Within their name is the sport or activity that they do, so we won't cover that. So more analysis on this. In digging through, again, the records that we found, there was a 2004 policy statement which stated organizations which provide a community recreation program which might not be otherwise provided by the district will be considered for community service group status or CSO status. As part of that, the form requirements included an annual update, a financial statement form, current bylaws, rosters with addresses, and insurance. As well, on the document it stated that all district community service groups would have 75% participants residing within district boundaries. In 2008, the Board of Directors authorized a community service organization application form, which really codified, which put pen to paper on the process So it's community-based, nonprofit organizations who provide youth programs that benefit the community. And within the 4-page application, there was various requirements that the organization had to submit to the district, to including bylaws. They had to have a governing body, nonprofit status, insurance, which would be updated annually, as well as a roster of participants to verify the number of participants. On the form, there's also additional requirements that the organization would, if approved, work with district staff for reservations and as well as annual updates, which would be presenting in front of the board on an annual basis. On the form, it also indicated that the board may reject the organization from becoming a community service organization based on two things: existing programs already serving the community, as well as available facilities.
All right, my turn. If you recall, for some of our veteran board members, in 2015, MSA presented, they didn't present, but they had requested and sent in an application to be a CSO. At that time, they had submitted all the necessary documents, an application, their bylaws, an annual update. And at that time, the request was denied by district staff due to the district recognizing two soccer organizations, one being recreational, the other one being a competitive, specialized, and MSAFC representing the same interests as the two existing organizations. This item was not brought to the board of directors as an agenda item at that time. MSA applied in February of this year, sent in an application, their bylaws, an annual update, and all of the necessary documents needed. Their governing body, their nonprofit status, insurance, and then a roster of participants verifying just the number of participants that are in their program. Field availability. So MSAFC has affirmed that they will still use Wood Creek Park and First Baptist Church. They have requested up to about 2,000 hours at PV Fields. This would require one zone for the week for practice and a large-sided field and a small-sided field for games on weekends. And they have also, based on the permitted hours at PV Fields, they were willing to contribute on an annual basis. At this time, our existing programs served are AYSO. In 2015, they were recreational. In 2021, they're instructional, recreational, and a club competitive portion. The Eagles in 2015 were a club and competitive. In 2021, they're providing an instructional, recreational, and club competitive. MSAFC in 2015 was serving both instructional, recreational, club, and competitive, and still do to this day. And then on the far right, you can see the numbers. The ASO numbers at 1,200, that's what we had, if you will, a couple weeks ago while we're doing the report. Jeanette might speak to this, but their numbers are increasing as they're doing their registration right now. Their financial stability, so you can see that MSAFC has increased their beginning and end-of-year balance with a small hiccup in 2019, but otherwise there was steady growth through the years financially, with $149,000 currently available. So for PV Fields, in 2010, when we opened those fields, it was recommended that each zone be used for 800 hours per year. Right now, they are being used between 1,000 to 1,100 hours per year. This includes a 5-week closure that we do 3 times a year. If you recall, we closed the fields in March. After some heavy spring use, if you will, depending on the weathers that we get, we will close the fields for 5 weeks for a period of rest to get ready for the spring tournaments and into the summer. Then again in mid-June through mid-July, we close it in anticipation of the heavy use that we're going to get in the fall. And then we close it again from Thanksgiving through the new year, just the soccer fields, not the softball fields, so that we're able to have some rest after a heavy fall season. There are annual maintenance items. The park crew will do verticut, rest and repair, as well as we added a fertigation system installation in 2020. And looking at our numbers, so PV Field annual turf hours, you can see what each of the zones is being used each year by the Eagles and by ASO, as well as the adult softball and kickball program. And this also includes rentals that we have on the softball field. So our 4-year average on PV East, you can see that's 902 hours that are used each year. Zone 1 at 1,100, Zone 2 over 1,000, Zone 3 and 4 just under 1,000, the swale at 668, and the softball fields ranging anywhere from whatever night leagues are happening on softball or what rentals we have going on which fields. Overall, when you take a look at all of the sports complexes as well as our neighborhood parks, you can see all the hours that each of the community service organizations use, that use, if you will, a park or use district lands. So PV Fields being very heavily used by ASO and by Eagles, a little bit by CGSA when it comes to, it's their all-star tournament, and the 1 year that we had the USA softball tournament, and then PVRPD with the adult softball league. Bob Kildee has its hours, Mission Oaks, Freedom, ball fields, as well as Freedom East and West. And then the other parks are our neighborhood parks. So on an annual 4-year average, you can see what those hours look like. We did not have the hours for Cape School, but we also don't take those reservations, so we weren't able to track those. And the fiscal impact at this time, we don't know what the fiscal impact is directly or currently. This depends on the board direction, field allocations, rates charged, and maintenance items. And the recommendation, it is recommended that the board consider and provide direction on the Mock Soccer Academy FC Community Service Organization request.
Thank you, Lenny.
And just for your information, Steve Monka is here. He wants to speak at some point.
He's not prepared to make a presentation, is he just? Yeah, why don't you come up, because I know we have a lot of questions.
Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
All right.
that's great.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Mary, and PVRPD staff. My name is Steve Monka, and I am the chairman of the board and president of Life Sports Ministries International and MSAFC. Life Sports Ministries International is a nonprofit corporation and was founded in 2013. In 2015, MSAFC was formed under the umbrella of Life Sports Ministries International and is currently in its 7th year. We are current on all our governmental reporting requirements, and we are financially stable. Right now, I'd like to introduce Brian Monka, who's our technical director, and he will give you an overview of our programs. Thank you.
Chairman Malloy, Directors Dransfield, Kelly, Magner, and Roberts, thanks for the opportunity to speak today. Appreciate it. I know you guys are busy. My name is Brian Malka, and I'm the Technical Director at MSAFC. We're here today asking for our 501c3 to be granted CSO status with the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks District. What is MSAFC? He gave you a brief overview. Division of Life Sports Ministries International, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. It's a MSAFC specifically is a youth soccer club that's based in Camarillo with ages that range from 3 to 19 years old. We run multiple programs that range from recreational soccer classes to competitive club teams. Our goal is to develop not only great soccer players, but people as well. We believe that youth sports are a great way to learn life lessons, and that will make our students successful in life. This is really where we're at with everything. That is what we believe in. The soccer is important. I grew up, many of you guys know, some of you don't, here in Camarillo, attended Rio Mesa High School, played at UCSB, also at Liberty University, and I played professionally in Pittsburgh. I realized the impact that sports had on my life, and I want to pass it on to the kids. And I learned a lot of life lessons through that. So currently, we have 13 competitive teams playing Coast Soccer League, 7 girls teams and 6 boys teams. We had a total of 153 total participants last year. Now that was COVID, so that was a little bit different. This year, we have a total of 136, with approximately 30 to 40 more still to register due to the time frame of everything when they registered. Our percentage Camarillo residents was 83%, and we expect that to be around 85% this year. And that does not include SOMAS residents. So the mission statement for LSMI runs similar to MSAFC, not exact, but it's to develop Christ-centered character through sports education, training, competitive play, and Christian outreach by serving the spiritual, emotional, and/or financial needs of youth. So for MSAFC, that's more specific into soccer. And we believe that the sports, like I mentioned before, are an important character builder. We believe in commitment, teamwork within a community, being respectful, and learning to be accountable to skill development. So we are hoping to develop a respectful, confident, and strong moral character through our sports education, our professional training, and competitive play. We believe that the teamwork is one of the best ways for children to learn accountability and commitment, and one of the best ways to grow their spiritual and emotional health is through community outreach. So going along with the Parks and Rec mission statement, we think that we fit right along into that, where us being like having quality programs focused on this particular part is athletic activities. And then in terms of the community service group, it says, they're open to the public. Primary purpose is to serve the needs of the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks District, community as designated by the board. So we think we fit in there. And here's some things that give the reasons why. Over 85% residency percentage in our competitive teams alone. That's not counting all the other programs that we do. We're in our 7th year serving the community, and that shows our financial stability. Some of the things we offer free training academies to the public each year for multiple weeks. We have our coaches volunteering at multiple schools and churches offering our services. Every year, minus last year, participating in the PVRPD events, including the Camarillo Christmas Parade, Santa's Village, Easter extravaganzas. So in our we offer competitive teams. We have CSOs that we've already talked about that currently, one of them's has a super competitive branch, and then we have the other one that's more recreationally based, and now they both have kind of both sides of that going on, and we do as well. We feel like we're able to offer the best of both worlds. We have professional training at a lower cost, less travel, and there's no mandatory parental volunteering. We also have the ability for qualified coaches to form local teams with little or no coaching fees if they choose. We have scholarships available on a case-by-case basis. And this is all without the current benefits of CSO status with the quality fields and also the financial impact that goes along with that with some lower rental fees. In the past, we've been denied because there was, like I mentioned, there has been a competitive side and a recreational side, but I feel like both of those CSOs are offering both of those now, so it doesn't necessarily apply. And we offer a soccer club with a different mission. We're here to develop those people and those kids as a whole, and not just as soccer players, but as people. And I think that the other CSOs do a great job at what they're doing. I think it's very specific, and I think they've done a good job at it. So here are just a few examples of our impact from our involvement in the community so far. Serving the homeless community, one of our girls' teams went and actually served food and just was hanging out, giving community to one of the the homeless community. They were I think they were age 10. One of our boys' teams raised money for families, for underprivileged families that couldn't afford gifts. Players and families raised money for a missions trip to build a house for a poor family in Costa Rica. Former players are now returning to coach, and they're giving back their knowledge and lessons that they have learned. So we're really happy about that. One of the big impacts physically here in Camarillo is we help to revitalize activity at a local church. Restored a sports field there. It allows the church to host events on the grass that we restored. We also were able to play and have kids play there. Now there's a school that wants to use that church amongst other organizations and other churches. It brought forth a community garden, and so now something that was once an eyesore is something that's much more appealing to the eye. The coaches have volunteered services in multiple schools, and the coaches have volunteered services in multiple churches as well. So some of the reasons that we want to become a CSO is priority to premium field access. This seems to be the only way to get significant time on these fields, reduce rental rates, recognition through the community. It gives us more options for possibilities like running a tournament or being able to offer more financial aid. And it can help us accomplish our mission of developing more children with strong character. Some of the benefits for the district would be revenue to help one of the biggest line items, expenses on their budget. A professional soccer club that already benefits a huge number of local residents, and recognition in developing more children in the community. So what we're looking for, those hours were not entirely accurate. I don't think that we need 2,000 hours. I think that was miscalculated based on per team. I think it is more around, if you did it per zone, for a zone, we would need about 800 hours total for the year, okay, which is significantly less. That's for practices. We're looking for basically 3 hours a night, 4 days a week, and for the spring and the fall. And that's based on your closure rate of the field, taking into account like how many hours do you have it closed, how many days do you have it closed. It also includes if we were able to run 2 tournaments for the year, okay? So that's it's roughly 800 hours. So thanks again for letting us speak. We're looking for our 501c3 nonprofit, MSAFC, to be recognized as a community service organization with PVRPD. We fit all the criteria. We have proven our financial stability, and we bring an organization with a different mission than the other 2 current CSOs have right now. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? None? Okay. Do you have questions, Bob?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
First of all, I'm Robert Kelly. You know Brian. My wife runs the Eagle Soccer Club. I've looked at the application that was filed in 2015, and I looked at the application that was recently filed in '21. The applications are virtually identical. In fact, it looks like the first page was just a Xerox copy of the original application with the addition of presently 153 players. Would you agree with me on that?
Sure.
Okay. On page 2, there is a paragraph right at the top of the page in which you say, this is just for point of clarification because I don't really understand this statement. MSA is the only Camarillo-based 501c3 nonprofit organization offering competitive, developmental, and united teams to Camarillo and Ventura County families. What does that actually mean?
So I think what that's referring to is what I referenced in my speech, is that we have competitive teams. We have teams that are similar, like competing Coast Soccer League, which I'm sure you're aware of what that is with your wife being president of Eagles. That, so there's our competitive side. The developmental teams are teams that are possibly competing in either outside leagues, or they're competing in leagues that are, or just like within our little organization. And then we have united teams, which are teams that I reference where if there's a coach that is not in our organization and they want to bring a team in, or we've had some people come from the local community that want to start a team and they're not paid, they're just volunteering their time, they can start their own team as well. But they would be qualified through, which is the governing body, Cal South. So those would be the united teams.
So it looks like the united teams are the only difference between your group and the other groups.
Well, it depends on which group you're talking about, but yes.
I mean, as far as the purpose being served.
Yes.
Okay. So when a united team comes to you to talk to you about maybe coming under your umbrella, do you charge them a fee to do so?
There are fees, yes.
And I noticed on your, and I've read your website, so I just want to let you know that. It says basically you can run your own show, but you have to follow our rules. Is that pretty much what it says?
Yep.
Okay. In reference to the 501c3 bylaws, they were first presented in 2014, correct?
You mean to Parks and Rec?
Yes.
I believe it was 2015.
Okay, 2015. Have they changed in any appreciable way since then?
I do not believe so. You could ask, we can check with the president.
There's a lot of fine text there, and I couldn't do it word for word, so.
Have there been any major changes since 2015?
Okay. The purpose of a CSO is to provide a service that the district would provide, but really can't, either due to not enough staff members, economics, what have you. And so that we get groups to do that. You saw the list of groups, many of them have been CSOs since the 80s or 70s even. And so my question to you is, what has changed since 2015 when you submitted an application and your application in 21, if anything?
I think what has changed is maybe one of the things that doesn't have anything to do with a CSO is just maybe a lack of availability to the Pleasant Valley Fields for us. It seems that there are hours that are rented that aren't actually being used. And so but we don't really have access to that. So then we'd say, okay, maybe we need to be a CSO. So we're going to do that. We're going to go that route. So
You have not been able to rent Pleasant Valley Fields at all?
not consistently.
Do you know the reason why?
What's that?
Were you given a reason why?
They say that they're full. But that's why I'm confused, because sometimes they're like, say they're rented, like during a time frame, but then they're not actually being used.
Let me ask you this and cut to the chase. What would MSA Soccer Academy, what purpose would it serve that's not already being served by the groups that presently are CSOs?
I think mainly there is a group of people, and I can give an example. I had someone talk to me about this the other day. They said that they're really happy that they are able to play, and they're referencing their son, with a group that is professionally coached, but not the same price point as the competitive current CSO, and also without the travel. And so typically our teams will play more locally, and they were very happy about that. And I think that that fits a big need and want. And I think that explains why there's 85% of our people registered are from Camarillo.
When you say locally, doesn't the Coast Soccer League determine where and if you play?
It does in some respects, but at the lower levels of that, they are playing mostly local.
So the younger teams tend to play local no matter what, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The younger teams tend to play locally no matter what,
They
right?
do.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Mr. Wonka, Jordan Roberts, Dr. Roberts, and my wife isn't the president of the Eagles, but my daughter does play for ASO United, and so full disclosure there. I do have a question. Do you have anyone on your team from out of state or out of county?
There is no one that is out of state or out of county on any of my teams that I know of.
So are the other 15 or so percent of your other 15 or so percent of your team, is that usually people from within Ventura County or
Yeah,
local
I
cities?
would say that's a good general rule, yeah.
Okay. And so I know that, there's different philosophies. ASO, everyone plays. I fully support that. I'm a volunteer with ASO, referee, and, my daughter plays on their competitive team as well. And I know that the Eagles are an elite team as well. And, I basically am wondering.
Director Roberts, louder, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I know that, my daughter does play for the competitive side of ASO, and I know that over the years that ASO has developed their competitive side, and, I get emails from my school about the recreational side as well for Eagles. So I know that there's both organizations are moving in a similar direction that you're moving in as well. So having said that, I think that I'd like to ask, do you see yourself, how do you distinguish yourself from, an organization where everyone plays versus an elite organization where only the most competitive play?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the organization, right? So if you're comparing us to the Eagles, then our price point's going to be lower. As I mentioned, we're not going to usually travel as much. Some of their teams, are, and some of their teams are spectacular, and they travel outside the state quite regularly. Now, that, as Director Kelly mentioned, the younger ones tend to stay local, but I think it's getting to where there's a point where now even 10, 11-year-olds are having to travel out of state. And I think that's going to even change more and more as we go forward. And I think there's just some people that don't want that, hence, why we're able to continue to have that and offer those programs here because they want that locally. One of the differences between both organizations, both AYSO and the Eagles, is we don't require any mandatory volunteering for anyone. So parents don't have to volunteer for anything. They just bring their kids and we train them and take them, go to tournaments and not physically take them, but attend the tournaments. And then so those are some of the big differences there, between, the two. In terms of AYSO, I think sometimes parents prefer not to have parental coaches. It's one of the things that when sometimes you have volunteer coaches that come in and they want to coach. If there's parents, a lot of times on any kind of competitive team, that can run into some appearances that don't look great in terms of playing time. If their son or daughter is on the team, that can be an issue. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just some people have a problem with it, and it can create some issues. So I think that those are the main distinguishing factors. But like I said, that just came to me the other day from a parent that was really thankful about not having to travel, especially during, these times right now.
Thank you. And, do you recognize that, we have volunteer coaches at ASA that work very hard, and, we're very happy with our coaches as well. But again, everyone does need to make their personal choices with what sort of organization they want their child to be a part of. And one of the one of the questions I have for staff really is with regards to the hours of use that was put up there. This is a question I've had before, but with regards to hours of use, is that determined from the organizations themselves? Because ActiveNet, the system that we use to reserve or earmark those fields, doesn't necessarily track actual use. It's just more of the reservations, from what I understand. So I'd like staff to explain if there's a difference between those reservation hours and actual use or occupation of the fields.
Wait. The board's still questioning Mr. Monka, so the staff can address that when we
My
get done with
apologies,
the
I'll
questions.
hold off on that.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever done.
Oh, you were not done?
No, I paused for a second.
Okay, well, return and then.
Also, my apologies for that.
That's okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around one thing. I've got this 2015 application, I got the 2021. They're essentially the same application except for what we discussed a little earlier. Would you agree with me?
Yep.
Okay. The first, as Lanny said, the first application was denied because there were already service groups doing the same thing that you intended to do. And I think what you're doing is asking the board to make you a CSO based upon the same premise that you used in 2015. Would I be incorrect or correct in that assessment?
The same premise being that we want the same benefits from being a CSO?
Well,
Because that's why I'm asking.
I understand that. But what I want to know is, your application is the same, and it was denied on the basis that there were already groups who had already been CSOs for many years and were providing the service to the district. And I'm trying to get you to tell me why this application should be treated any differently.
So is it because both those groups, one was strictly competitive and one was recreational? So now they're both doing both sides of it. So it seems that there are two now CSOs doing the exact same thing. So it doesn't make any sense why there couldn't be three.
Okay, I'm not sure I get that logic. The purpose of a CSO is to do something that the district would feels the need to do, but can't really do it. And so what need of the district do you propose that you will be fulfilling, that those groups are not already doing?
Professional training at a lower price point, no mandatory volunteering. I mean, those are just a few of the things that I've gone over so far.
I wasn't going to ask this, Brian, but you've brought it up so many times about the lower cost of this or that. And you don't have to tell me the exact numbers, but tell me what we're talking about as far as this reduced cost.
Well, our numbers are lower than the professionally coached club, the Eagles. Our price point is lower, and it is higher than the volunteer-based club, AYSO, but it's also offering the United teams, which is sometimes less than the cost of AYSO. They're competitive teams. So without giving specific numbers, because I don't know the exact numbers of the other clubs right now, what they're going to charge next year, but generally, that's the rule.
So with those, I think what you've laid out is that the United teams that come to you, and usually they're a single team that doesn't want to join a club and be part of a club. They kind of want to do their own thing, and they come to you, and you facilitate that. They wear the Monka shirt, and they follow your rules, but they're kind of like independent and on their own. Do you intend to have, those teams could come from anywhere. If somebody from Ventura wanted to come, you would take them, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily, depending on what the CSO status might be.
Okay. Let's assume you have one United team at present, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And would you expect your United teams, assume you were granted CSO status, to also play at Pleasant Valley Fields?
Yes, if they were within the district.
What do you mean by that?
If the people on the team were from within the district, like Maine, just like it would be for anybody else, yes, I would. I would expect them to play there.
Okay. And practice there.
Yeah.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Director Dransville?
Good evening, everyone. So thank you, Mr. Monka, for all of the information tonight. One of the questions that you have, you basically already answered, since you aren't aware of the other costs of the other organizations, because I was going to ask, how big of a difference is that? But I guess the question, and so one thing I do want to disclose, since we're all disclosing our affiliations with different soccer groups, I come from a unique perspective because I do not have, at the beginning of this, I don't have a child that is competitively playing. And I do have a daughter, though, who is 3 years old, and she does partake in the little class that she does through Monka. But I bring this up because one of the things that stood out to me working at the district or passing the community center was seeing a bunch of little kids running around, playing soccer, having fun, and then Mr. Monka, you stand out, of course, and seeing Brian just having a total blast with them. And I think that brings more joy to the community than we realize. And I'm not sure if the other organizations offer something like that, and I do understand when you say, there's the instructional, recreational, and club teams. And from my understanding, and perhaps this is to be addressed by the board or staff, is we are in the district is in the business of recreation. We aren't supporting necessarily competitive. Because at that point, it's not available to everyone. And with that being said, I'm going to say something really unpopular. I think that the district should not be supporting the club teams, if that's the case, and that they should be at a different rate. So, you know, if we're focusing on recreation, then that's who we should be supporting. I have problems overall with the